These Small Hours with Russell Cordell Staker. Hello, friends. This is the Small Hours podcast, and I am Russell Cordell Staker. It's the 16th of November, 2021, coming to you from Austin, Texas, and I hope you are well wherever you may be. I am going to be releasing in a few segments over, I'm actually going to release this all at once. I'm in the process of recording them, and then we'll put this out from start to finish, including this introductory brief commentary as well as the author's note that's about to follow here. But I have decided to audio record the novella that I wrote and just give a little bit of insight as to what I'm doing with that to really close out a phase of my life as a writer and as an author, and allow myself to begin really full and earnestly with my next book, which I've already begun, but I need to put this one in behind me, so to speak, so that I can move forward. I am in the query process right now with this. I will openly state that it is very rare for a first-time writer to get a publisher or an agent interested in a novella. This particular book that I wrote, which is entitled In These Small Hours, and which you're going to be able to listen to on this podcast. I'm not going to release the text on my website, but you can at least listen to it. It's in the query process, as I'd mentioned right now, and I am attempting to see if I can get some notice with it. But I also recognize that this may really not be a publishable work at the outset. I do believe very strongly in the work. I'm proud of it. I think it's a beautiful book. It is just a heartbeat of language. But I am also an unknown writer at this point, and I think with the ensuing books that will follow, I genuinely believe what's going to happen is I'm going to get noticed, and at some point it will get published. And this spare little book, which you're going to get to listen to right now, will eventually find its way onto the printed page. I'm not going to try to self-publish it other than I'm doing this little audio book so that I can put that out for my listeners. But I have submitted this manuscript in part to the University of Texas at the Michener Center for Writers, as well as the Iowa Writers Workshop at the University of Iowa, for consideration next fall in both of their fall MFA programs. It is astronomically impossible to think that I would be accepted into either one. Both of those programs, Iowa being, if I were to liken it to anything, would be like the Harvard of writing programs, and the Texas program would be like Yale. So for anybody from Yale, they may say, well, it should be the other way around. But anyway, I'm just saying that they are very, very prestigious programs, and I'm honored that I was able to submit an application to both for consideration. I really probably won't know whether I'm accepted or denied until the early part of next year, but I feel as if this first book that I wrote served its purpose in at least giving me a chance to put myself in front of those kinds of programs to be considered for potentially entering and matriculating up through that kind of mentoring and workshopping. But be that as it may, I don't anticipate that I will get in, and even if I could, it'd be virtually impossible for me to attend, but it's one of those things where I have to try. And I am querying, so I've submitted this manuscript out already to several very, very high-profile agencies. As of right now, a couple have just outright rejected, and a few just, it's just basically crickets right now. I've already prepared myself for the high likelihood that that will be the case because, as I'd mentioned, I'm an unknown writer in the world of publishing. But I believe in what I'm doing, and I thought this would be an opportunity for me to read it. Not only is it my voice and what I wrote, but it gives me the opportunity to put it out there so that you can hear it for yourselves, to get a sense of the work that I put into this. The books that are going to follow, the novels that I'm going to write, the one that I'm currently beginning and will be writing, I think, relatively quickly. It's coming along, and I believe very strongly that I should be able to progress at a much more rapid pace than I did with this first book, because there was so much that went into this first book and just learning how to write as a writer. Those books that are going to follow are going to be very, very different, and they're going to be truly more imagined states of creativity. But I had to write this first book as it was, and in a moment here, you're going to get to hear the author's note that I provide at the very beginning of my novella, and then I will be reading it in a few short segments. The book is only about a little over 31,000 words. It's around 100 pages total, so it won't be super long to have to listen to, but I'm going to break it up in probably 3 or 4 segments, as you will see. And by the time you get this and you're listening to this, all of the other segments will be released on my podcast, so you can just go in sequence and listen to it if you would like. I would be honored for any of you to take a listen to this. And if you are at all interested in giving me any feedback, you can certainly drop me a line at russell.staker@thesmallhours.com. I would love to hear any commentary you might have after you've had a chance to listen to my little book. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this brief commentary. What is going to follow is going to be the author's note, which is at the beginning of the novella. And then this particular segment will close out, and the further segments to come will be the recordings of the actual novella itself. At the end of the reading of my book, I will have an afterword and then just a little conclusion, and then it will be out in the universe for anybody who would like to listen to it. As far as, like I said, a reading version in physical print, I'm going to hold off doing anything with that for at least a good year, and probably won't do anything until after my next book is completely written, and we'll see if I get any attention from any agencies or potential publishers. Regardless, though, I'm proud of this, and if anything, I have arrived and I'm on my way, and I will continue to write until I can truly do it full time. Author's note 2. In these small hours. What you're about to listen to is a spare novella, a little over 31,000 words in length. It took me 7 years to produce it. I don't mention this to be admired. In fact, it's probably proof that I'm not much of a writer to begin with. I most certainly broke every unwritten rule or consideration for any first-time author in composing a work. But I also did a lot of things right, and most of all, I finished. I will openly state that this fictional story bears an unmistakable projection of personal autobiography. It also directly telegraphs the ambitions, hopes, and pursuits of this writer and his image of and relationship with his late father. In the end, I have my reasons for writing the book just as it was written, and in the timbre of my own literary voice, as you will soon hear for yourself. I make no apologies for any of this. In the simplest terms, I wrote the book I had to write. In the trial and error of my own learning as an emerging author, I taught myself the application and craft of being a writer. This book was the essential reading I needed for myself. It's a soul play on the page, and it reaches deeply into veins of gold I will most likely continue to mine in the books that will follow in the years ahead. I am prepared to acknowledge and possibly accept the pressing reality that this book may never see the hard and glorious light of publication. But I believe that it should, if for nothing else, the simple power at the heart of its language. It is a story dead center in the lane of the living, and just at the curious crossroads of those who are dead. It dances with elements of plainness and experience so many of us largely pass through in oblivion on the way to somewhere else. I'd like to think it encourages a reader to slow down a little and look harder. In the small hours of my days and nights, I rode into the plain and hard space of living, and there discovered my voice along the way. Russell Cordell Staker, 15 November, 2021, Austin, Texas. Thank you for being with me here in these small hours.